Check. Last one. Excellencies, distinguished speaker, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. To the Honorable, the guest lecturer, Professor Dewulf, the Academic Director, CMIT at University of Antwerp, Faculty of Business and Economic and Antwerp Management School. A very warm welcome we bid to all the participants, the lecturers, and students of ITL Trisakti. Welcome to the Auditorium of ITL Trisakti for the General Lecture of Cargo Business Regulation and Strategy. I'm Natasha Fitra Rohandi as the MC of this event. On behalf of the organizing committee, we extend our appreciation for your presence today. It is indeed a pleasure to have you all in this lovely morning. And thank God for His blessings so that we could gather here in the general lecture regarding cargo business regulation and strategy. Before we begin this agenda, please allow me to read the rundown of the session this morning. First, we will have the welcoming remarks by the Vice Rector of ITL Trisakti, Dr. Wouter Simarmata. Then we will start the general lecture that will be guided by the moderator, Ms. Mustika Sari, PhD. And then we will have a question and answer session. And lastly, we will have a photo session with all the participants. Okay, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us now start our program by welcoming the Vice Rector of ITL Trisakti to deliver his opening remarks. Please welcome to the Honorable Mr. Wouter Simarmata. Come to the stage. Give applause, please.
Prof. Wouter, welcome back to ITL Trisakti. Thanks so much for giving your time to give general lecture in our campus. I think this is already for the fourth time you visited our campus. Fourth time I think, ya. Tepuk tangan lagi dong sekali buat Prof. Wouter. Ya, applause for Profesor Wouter. Ya, ini jadi rumah kedua beliau ya. This is your second home. Indonesia. Oke. Jadi ITL Trisakti and Antwerp University already established our collaboration since 2017 ya, 5 years ago, and we have been running several programs with Antwerp University. We do join conference, and also the latest issue that we conduct with Antwerp University. We have sent 4 students for master program in air transportation and also maritime management for master program. Yeah, so this is a good news for ITL Trisakti because Professor Wouter give us 4 quota. Yeah, we send 4 students for master program. Yeah, it's a scholarship from Antwerp University. So I think we should thanks for Professor Wouter and also Professor Kroon that give us the opportunity to send 4 students. And also ya, tepuk tangan dulu dong buat bantuan dari Prof. Wouter dan kawan-kawan ya. And also this is a good chance also for all the students to attend this seminar or attend this general lectures, because Prof. Wouter will also explain to you about the CMET program, yeah, the master program, then in this session. So please ask the qualification and also please ask the requirements. So I think it's also possible for you students to apply the master program next when you are finishing the bachelor program in ITL Trisakti. And today we will also discuss about double degree for PhD program. Ada yang dari PhD program hadir hari ini? Anyone who who are taking a PhD program now? Only master ya, master degree. Siska nggak hadir ini yang PhD. Oh, one student, yang PhD student ya. Ika Utami. Ya, Ika Utami, okay. After this session, we will be discussing about double degree for PhD program. Yeah, so it is possible for ITL student who take PhD in ITL also taking a second PhD degree from Antwerp University. So the certificate will be, the degree will be two certificate yeah, from ITL and also from Antwerp University. And this is a good chance for us to make ITL Trisakti to be a world-class institute, to be world-class university. So we hope the support from the student to make it happen. Yeah, and also I really request to all the students to give more questions to Professor Wouter because he was flying to Indonesia for 15 hours. You know, he was flying from Belgium to Indonesia for 15 hours. After giving presentation, we hope you can ask the question as many as you can, ya. If possible, all the participants will be asking question to Professor Wouter, ya. Ya, jadi adik-adik, ini pesannya buat Anda semua ya. Karena Prof Wouter always tell me that Indonesian student selalu suka malu-malu. Malu-malu, you know, Prof Wouter means malu-malu, shy, ya. So I encourage all the students here this morning. Please don't be shy, ya. Jangan malu-malu. Ask question as many as you can, ya. No matter the question is good or not excellent, but try to ask the question. And once more time, Prof Wouter, thank you so much for the cooperation that we have built between Antwerp and ITL Trisakti. And we are always open to welcome you anytime you come to Indonesia. And we do hope our collaboration will be running more fruitful. You can help ITL Trisakti to make our vision world-class institute. So thank you so much and selamat mengikuti general lecture. Semoga kesuksesan menjadi bagian Anda. Okay, go success for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jilatari Sumarmata, for the welcoming remarks. And I would like to quote it by Mr. Vigilator, like what he said, that ask as many questions as you can, because this is your chance to know more knowledge, to increase more of your knowledge, so that, you know, we can begin the world-class institute, making ITL Trisakti as the world-class institute, and also developing your own self. Next, allow me to introduce the moderator for today. She is Miss Mustika Sari. She was born in Jakarta, 17 September 1972. She has obtained her master's degree from Institute Transportation and Logistics Trisakti in Air Transport in 2012. She started to pursue her doctoral degree at Malaysia Institute of Transport, UITM, in 2018 until 2022. She worked with Garuda Indonesia since 1995 until 1998 and moved to work with Ground Handling Company from 1998 until 2007. And from 2007 until now, she is working as a lecturer at ITL and specialized in ground operation and revenue management. She has conducted several research about airline operations and revenue management. Since 2020, she was appointed as the head of the vocational study program focusing on air transport management. And to Ms. Mustika Sari, I present the floor to you. Give applause, please.
Good morning, all the students and the faculties and academics. I can see the academics here, like the lecture. Maybe you can raise your hand, the lecture. I really appreciate that you're coming here, the lecture of air transport management. You can ask later about the strategy of air cargo, Pak Harko and Pak Sumina, right? Okay, thank you for coming. So as we know, since we live in pandemic, cargo business rising fast because nowadays people want to deliver goods with quick and cheap and punctuality. So with the support of regulation and strategies, we could develop and achieve the investment and the strategy and sustainable of air cargo in the future. So with this general lecture, today the University of ITL Trisakti wants to give positive contribution to the cargo business. For that, we have a speaker with us, that is Mr. Professor Dewulf. He is Academic Director of CMET at University of Antwerp, Faculty of Business and Economics and Antwerp Management School, Belgium. Professor Wouter is also the Director of the consulting company Studium at Scaldin, which focuses on air transport related consulting strategy. And he is also doing many research about air transport management, especially in cargo and e-commerce logistics. Okay, this is the short brief about the Professor Wouter. So without any longer, I will ask Mr. Professor to come to the stage. Please applause to Professor Wouter. Professor want to have a selfie first with you guys. You can raise your hand or freestyle. Okay, don't be shy. Do we shoot?
Put it on LinkedIn. Make some publicity for ITL Trisakti and for University of Antwerp. So that's, and now it doesn't work. This is part of the group of the Maritime and Air Transport. It's the Advanced Master. Not everyone is on the picture because some people had some visa problems, mainly people from Iran couldn't get in, but the Indonesian students got in very well. Can you spot them? 4? You see them? This is Ivan, Tiara, Bagus, and you see them? People from all over the world. We have some from China, from Thailand, we have some Belgians, some Russian students, and there Swedish, Polish, people from Ecuador, from Colombia, so it's a very broad international group. Anyway, let's go back now to the title of the presentation. Behind me you can see the top forwarders, and you know forwarding companies, if you're doing cargo, you know that the forwarders are the link between the end customer and the either air or maritime provider. In air transport, 99% of the business goes through the forwarders. You don't have many companies who go directly to the airline. Companies go to the forwarder and the forwarder go to the airline. In the shipping industry, it's a little bit different, but about 2/3 of the customers, if you look at tonnage and value, goes through the forwarder. And you see most of the forwarders are doing both. They're doing air cargo and they do maritime transport. And what you can see here is that the large, the top 5 of the forwarders already doing almost half of all the cargo being shipped worldwide. So there's a big consolidation happening. If you look at the biggest one, Kuehne + Nagel, DHL, DSV, DB Schenker. I'm sure you have these names here as well in Jakarta, Indonesia, as very big forwarders. Maybe some of you will probably work there later. If you look at the shipping industry, who's doing maritime here? Who's doing a bachelor in maritime?
Ya, anak laut mana anak laut? Atau bapak laut tapi ada belajar laut?
Who's doing maritime? Only one. No, 2, 3.
Bapak laut.
Must be more, no? Who's doing maritime? Okay. So, and who's doing air transport?
Ayo yang tinggi.
Oh, it's a bigger group. Yeah. Okay. Let's first talk about shipping, and later we talk about airlines. If you look at the shipping industry, you see that the last 10 years there was a very big consolidation happening. And on the left side you can see the top 20 global shipping lines in 2010, and on the right side you see the top 25 in May. And what you can see here, you see the orange dots on the left side. They have been bought, merged or acquired by one of the other ones. There was a big merger and acquisition wave. And you can see that the big ones got even bigger, and then the alliances changed into 3 big alliances. That should not be a big surprise for you, but there was a big consolidation happening between 2014 and 2017. And if you look at the 3 very big ones, MSC, Maersk, and CMA CGM, they are huge compared to all the other ones. And if you look at the top 5, there again, you can see that the top 5, they transport more than half of all the maritime cargo all over the world. So there's a big consolidation, horizontal integration happened during these years. One went bankrupt, the Hanjin went bankrupt, as you might know, and parts of it have been integrated into one of the. So look at that, 3 big alliances, and you have about 6, 7 very large ones which transport more than half of all the maritime cargo of the world. The same happened with the airlines, and I made this view here, and you can see this is the American Airlines. And if you think about United States, if you look at the 80s and the 90s, you had many airlines. Almost every state had its own airline. You had many new startup airlines. Even Trump had his own airline, the Trump shuttle, flying between New York and Washington. Most of these airlines have been merged, went bankrupt, and have been merged into one large airline. And if you look at the landscape in the United States, passengers, but they also transport cargo, especially internationally, you only have 3 big ones left. You have United Airlines, you have American Airlines, and you have Delta Airlines. 3 very big airlines, and you can see they are constituted of many different airlines. We have one large low-cost carrier, which is Southwest Airlines, as you might know. And we have then a number of ultra-low-cost carriers, where Spirit is the most important. They mainly fly domestically, same as Spirit. And these 3 big airlines, United, American Airlines, and Delta Airlines, they also have big cargo divisions. Because, as you know, in the belly of the passenger aircraft carry cargo. And the new aircraft, the 787, the Airbus A350, these new aircraft can carry significantly more cargo than before. So they fly to Europe, they fly to Asia, and in the belly of the passenger aircraft, they take their cargo. Interesting business. Think about Delta Airlines. They almost had $1 billion of cargo revenues just on board of their passenger aircraft. So you see a big consolidation. In Europe, you had the same. In the United States, they had the deregulation in 1978, which led to many new airlines and many bankruptcies. In Europe, we had it in the 90s in 3 waves. So we had exactly the same as it happened in the United States, but a little bit later. What we have is we have the same type of consolidation happening in Europe. And I'm sure in Asia, the same will happen the moment ASEAN moves more towards a kind of European community with free trade, free access to each other's market. Step by step, it looks like ASEAN is going this way. In Europe, as you can see, many bankruptcies, and in the end, you still have a few large carriers. In Europe, you still have 3 large carriers. You have one Lufthansa Group, which is German. They have some brands like Swiss and Brussels Airlines. You have the Lufthansa Group. You have the IAG, which is British Airways and the Spanish Iberia. And then you have Air France KLM, which also merged to one company. And so you have like 3 main. So you have 2 low-cost carriers, mainly fly inside Europe. You have Ryanair and you have Wizz Air. My students, they love Ryanair because they can go for €10 to Milan. Many Indonesian students like to go to Milan, isn't it? You know Milan? The girls want to go there for the fashion and the boys want to go there for football. You can go for €10 to Barcelona. I'm sure you know Barcelona. Or Madrid. Anyone likes Real Madrid here? Yeah? Real Madrid? You know Real Madrid? Yeah. Okay. You know Eden Hazard? He's Belgian, right? Yeah. You know Thibaut Courtois? He's Belgian, right? Okay. You know all these players. That's good. They like to go there, and Europe is flying is very cheap, even cheaper than Lion Air. And safer. That's recorded. That's what the people from Lion Air here. Oh, okay. Maybe so. Anyway, I don't fly Lion Air. But anyway, you see here the consolidation which happened in Europe and which is continuing to happen. We will soon see in Europe there will only be 3 large airlines left, and then a few low-cost carriers and a few specialized regional carriers. If you look at the maritime transport, remember in 2014 to 2017 we had a horizontal integration. We had a merger and acquisition. So the big ones becoming bigger, and you end up with a very big consolidated market. What happened between 2017 and 2020? You might know that the interest rate in the world, especially in Europe and United States, was very low. You could borrow money from the bank for 1%, 1.5%. So this meant that many of these shipping companies who did a large horizontal integration exercise could borrow money from the banks at a very low rate. And they were saying, okay, we've done now the horizontal integration, leading to economies of scale. Now we will do a vertical integration, giving economies of scope. And what's a vertical integration? Vertical integration means that you buy your value chain downwards. It's like a shipping company buys a terminal, or a shipping company buys a logistics company. You go down the value chain, and that way you realize economies of scope. And that's very important that you realize if you do a merger and acquisition or horizontal one, you create economies of scale. Economies of scale means that you are lowering your average cost by spreading your fixed cost over a broader output. Also, economies of scale means because you're bigger, you can negotiate better for fuel, for buying ships, for maintenance, because you are becoming bigger. If you do a merger and acquisition in a horizontal way, you have economies of scale, but also economies of density. Because you can combine more ports. You can offer your customers a bigger network. So you also create economies of density. And by doing a vertical integration, you create economies of scope. Economies of scope means that you can do another activity with more or less the same ecosystem. It's like you fly passengers on board of your aircraft, but you also take cargo with you. These are economies of scope. And they were seeing that with these horizontal integrations, it was difficult to lower your cost even more. So what did they do, the top 5? They all did more or less the same. They were starting to buy, in the maritime world, they're starting to buy terminals, as if airlines would start to buy airports or parts of an airport. In the airline industry, that's not the case. Only in the United States, we have a few of these examples, like JFK, some terminals are owned by some airlines. In Europe, if you look at Munich Airport and Frankfurt Airport, part of these airports are owned by Lufthansa, but generally it's not the case. They are two completely different worlds. In the maritime industry, you see that there were limits to the economies of scale, and the maritime companies were starting to buy terminals. They were even starting to buy logistics companies like CMA CGM, which is a French company, you might know, a very large company. They bought Siva Logistics. You might know them. Siva Logistics is a big logistics company. I'm sure they are present here in Indonesia as well. If you look at MSC, for instance, they recently bought, not 2020, but in 2021, they bought Bolloré, Africa, for instance. It's also a logistics company. So they were trying to achieve now cost efficiencies, not through the horizontal cooperation, but through the vertical integration. So if I summarize, I mean, what happened pre-COVID? And I dare to say pre-COVID because in Europe, here as well, I think we're already post-COVID. Most of us have been vaccinated many times. In Indonesia, you still have to wear a mask. In Europe, we don't wear a mask anymore. But it's basically post-COVID. But if you look pre-COVID, what happened? And this summarizes a little bit what happened pre-COVID. First of all, if you look at the top 5 3PL logistics companies, that the top 5 revenue is larger than number 6 to number 30, which means there's a big consolidation happening. The same if you look at the maritime companies. Remember the second slide I've shown. Because of the horizontal integration, you see that the top 5 shipping lines, they have for the moment 2/3 of all the container shipping capacity, which is huge. We call it an oligopoly almost. If you look at the container terminals, surprising, the top 5 of the container terminals operators, they are handling 50%, half of all the traffic. And the same with air cargo. If you look at the top 5 air cargo operators, airlines, they transport 30% of all the traffic. So you see, if you were having this lecture 25 years ago, it would look completely different. The landscape would look much more scattered. And you see there's a big consolidation happening, and it happened. And then we had COVID, and you were all on the first row. I think you had lectures online. Is that terrible, no? Online? Or you like online? You like online? No. Okay, I don't like it either. Then COVID came, a terrible beast. And what happened with the COVID? You all know. There were lockdowns everywhere. People were sitting at home. Some factories were closed in the beginning. But people started to spend their money differently. People were buying things online, computers, all of the stuff buying online. There was also suddenly a huge demand for maritime transport. The prices for a container from Shanghai to Antwerp went up from $1,000 up to $10,000. The air cargo fee from China to Europe went up from $2.5 to $3 a kilogram up to 12, even $15 a kilogram. So prices went up enormously. And if you look at the margin of the shipping companies, this is maritime, you can see that it's not a very profitable business. It has not been. They were trying to do merger and acquisition horizontally, vertically in order to decrease their cost base. But the revenues were also going down, which led to very narrow, even sometimes negative margins. And suddenly Corona came. Look at that. Bang. There it goes. The prices went up. You know, the marginal cost to transport an extra container is almost zero. So if you get suddenly $10,000 for your container instead of $1,000, even if you have a bit more hassle in the beginning and the end, your profits go up enormously. And all these shipping companies, they made an enormous amount of money. So COVID was like a jackpot. You know a jackpot? Jackpot is? It's very haram, no? You're not allowed to gamble. To Las Vegas. Don't do it. It's not good. And you gamble. So you put money in there, and if you're lucky, you have more money coming out. This is what was happening here. Suddenly, these were really making money, as you can see. So the margins for the shipping companies went up. The airlines, it's somewhat different. The cargo companies, they made loads of money. If you look at Cargolux, for instance, you look at FedEx, you look at DHL, you look at UPS, they made an enormous amount of money. The airlines, which had a big cargo division, they earned loads of money. But of course, they lost lots of money on the passenger business, because during 1 year, there were hardly no flights. This is, by the way, one of the weaknesses of Garuda Indonesia. Their cargo business is too small, and they mainly focus on domestic passengers, maybe some cargo as well, but they had a lack of cargo capacity. They also don't have the good aircraft for cargo transport, apart from their Boeing 777. That's also one of the weaknesses. So airlines who were transporting lots of cargo were earning lots of money. And this is the same graph, but it looks at the supply and the demand. And what you can see here is that here you see the tons, it's actually ton kilometer. Here you see the time axis, and on the right hand side you can see the average price. The light blue line is the demand. And you can see the demand has always been more or less stable. The beginning of the COVID time, it went down a bit, and after that it went up, and even went up a little bit more towards the end because of the maritime industry, which was struggling. But what you see as well, look at the black line, the top line. The black line is the supply, is the capacity offered by these aircraft. And about half of the capacity is offered by passenger aircraft, wide-body passenger aircraft. Half of the air cargo is flown on board of passenger aircraft. Certainly these aircraft were not flying anymore, or less, during the Corona times. And you can see the black line is really going down significantly, which means the capacity went down significantly. And the red line are the prices. Look at that. Price certainly doubled during, average price doubled during the Corona time. So all these cargo companies earning lots of money. The cargo price was even so high that you could fly a passenger aircraft empty with just cargo on board. Last year I was in Indonesia. I flew Turkish Airlines. I think there were about 50 people on board of the aircraft, but it was full with cargo. And if you know that an A350 can transport, it was Turkish Airlines, it was very good, good service by the way. They had about 30 tons of cargo on board. And at that time, the price to Indonesia, from Europe to Indonesia, was about $8 a kilogram. So if you imagine 30,000 times 8 is $240,000 they got just by transporting the cargo. You in fact get more money from transporting cargo than you transport people. If you know a passenger on average with the luggage is about 100 kilogram. You know the passenger in Indonesia is a bit lighter than the European, I would say, but on average 100 kilogram, including the luggage, times 8 is $800 for a single trip for a passenger. So a passenger is less interesting than cargo. So they were just flying to Jakarta up to 2 times a day. Even if the plane was empty, or with 50, 60 passengers, they still flew these aircraft. But what you see now, post-COVID, prices are going down. Also for the maritime, prices are stabilizing, still higher than pre-COVID. The same with air transport. Prices are going down, still higher than pre-COVID, but it's going down. For air transport, it's because of the fact that the supply of passenger aircraft is going up, the price is going down. For the maritime industry, the prices go down because the demand is going down a bit, and also because the troubles at the ports in Europe, United States, and China is settling. This gives an overview of airlines. I'm not sure if you can read it, but on average, airlines earn about 15% of their revenues come from air cargo. 85% comes from passenger. If you look at American airlines, US airlines, it's 2 to 3%. If you look to Asian airlines, it's around 20% on average. I don't know how much it is from Garuda, but I think it will be less than That's 2019. Look at 2020, which is like the middle of the Corona times. You can see that airlines like China Airlines from Taiwan, Korean Air from Korea, Cathay from Hong Kong, China, and Qatar Airways and Turkish Airlines, they had a huge amount of cargo revenues, and that really kept these airlines alive. On the contrary, if you look at airlines like China Airlines, like Korean Air, like Turkish Airlines, they made even very good profits during these Corona times because of the fact they had many freighter aircraft. So that was the Corona times. Let's have a look at the post-Corona. We're all post-Corona. And I'm sure, like we talk, and when we talk, and when we lecture, and we show timelines, there are always 2 important timelines. We have 9/11, probably don't remember, when the terrorists flew into the World Trade Center. You had a dip in aviation and in the economy. You have 2008, which is the financial crisis. That's another dip you see very often, and we're sure you will remember the COVID times, which will give a big dip in GDP and a very big dip in passenger air transport. So this you will remember. When you were studying in the 90s, you will probably remember the Asian financial crisis somewhere at the end of the 90s, but that's probably long before most of you were born. Anyway, go back to the post-Corona time. Remember this graph I've shown to you? And these maritime companies, they were earning so much money. The jackpot, remember? The haram jackpot? They were earning so much money. What can they do with their money? They've already done the horizontal integration, so much they cannot achieve additional economies of scale and density. They are fully doing the vertical integration, buying terminals and all of that, and now they are doing the diagonal integration. And they start building an ecosystem. They are buying all the logistics companies. They want to control the complete value chain. Even buy or set up own airlines. And that's, I always make jokes with my colleagues from the maritime industry. Before we had 2 separate parts. I was doing air with my team and they were doing maritime with their team. Now we have to sit together more often. Because these maritime companies, they're buying airlines. Can you imagine? With all the money they have. Not too many, 4 aircraft, 6 aircraft, 10. But it's a big start. It's an interesting start. And it's amazing. If you look at the top 5, they all have an airline nowadays. If you look at CMA CGM, they recently started up their own airline in France. They will have about 10 777s coming very soon, which is a quite sizable cargo. If you look at MSC in September, not long time ago, they set up their own cargo airline, MSC Air Cargo. If you look at NYK, they already had part of Nippon Cargo Airlines, about half of the shares, a little bit less than half of the shares. They already had. Look at COSCO, it's a big Chinese, mainly owned by the government, shipping line. But they have part of China Cargo Airlines, about 17%. That was already pre-corona. They had this. And Maersk, they also set up their own airline. And it's amazing, if you look at their strategic rationale, and it's on their website, why do they buy an airline? And then you can really see is that it allows us to offer customers a truly unique combination of air freight integrated with other transport mode. And I said we are growing, and we see a growing demand for end-to-end logistics, which means not port to port, but they want to go from the factory up to the end customer. They want to do the entire logistic chain, a bit like UPS and FedEx is already doing on a parcel. They want to do it with pallets, offering an end-to-end solution. They want to own the value chain. They're large enough to do it. They own enough assets in the vertical way, and now they go diagonally by buying logistics companies, by setting up their own airline, by buying up airlines, so it's becoming one big ecosystem. And you can see here, they are focused on digital platforms, they're focusing on logistic solutions, they're focusing on really offering all kinds of transport modes, whether it is shipping, whether it is air, whether it is road, whether it is rail. They just want to offer the entire ecosystem to the end customers, and even go into last mile and e-commerce. So that's a very interesting strategy that they have, and surprise as well. And they all have the same strategy. If you look at the top 5 shipping companies, normally, if you look at the mobile phone industry, you look at Samsung, you look at Apple, you look at Oppo, they have a different strategy. If you look at the shipping companies, they just copy each other. They have exactly the same strategy, which is a bit strange. If you look at the airline industry, what is the airline industry doing? They mainly transport passengers. And they focus on the passenger transport, and they want to achieve economies of scale, economies of density. Of course, they need cargo, because cargo gives an additional revenue. The new aircraft are becoming fuel efficient, more fuel efficient. Their fuselage is getting wider, which means they can transport more cargo. If you look at 787, you look at the A350, these are very good cargo aircraft, up to 30 tons. You look at 747, you look at the Airbus A380, they are very bad cargo aircraft. There's not much space for cargo. And they just expand. And you look at the number of aircraft that have been ordered, that will be needed all over the world, especially in Asia, because the biggest growth will be here in Asia. It will be China, it will be India, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia. These will be the big powerhouses of air transport. And these airlines just want to expand their business and achieve economies of scale, economies of density, and maybe a bit economies of scope, but they don't want to focus too much. So the same tendency which we have seen in the shipping companies for this strategy, they want to build an ecosystem. You see it significantly less with the airlines. Most of the airlines still focus on passenger business. For them, cargo is important. They have big cargo departments. The cargo follows more where the passengers. And of course, they buy some freighters, and look at Korean Air, you look at China Airlines, you look at Turkish Airlines. They have freighters, of course. But you can still see that it's only on the second row. Primary importance, primary strategy is transport passengers. see an enormous amount of aircraft have been ordered, but at freighters, you see the percentage of freighters in the total aircraft portfolio reduced from 8% to 7%. So it's sizable, it's a lot. If you look at tonnage, but still the focus is a lot on single aisle aircraft, some wide body aircraft, and some freighters. Surprising enough, I mean, will the shipping companies now become the king? Will they really take over the supply chain from all the other customers? No, we have some new entrants coming in. Of course, DHL, UPS, FedEx, they won't fall asleep. If you look at DHL, they're also having the same strategy. They want to expand their logistics. E-commerce, look at Amazon, Alibaba, Lazada. They're also growing very fast. They're also investing heavily in logistics platforms. Amazon is asset heavy. They buy their own aircraft. They buy their own trucks. They buy their own last mile. Facts. If you look at Alibaba, they're having more asset light strategy. They focus more on setting up an ecosystem and subcontracting parts of the value chain. They still want to control it from the IT point of view, but they don't invest too much themselves in delivering the parts to the end customer. And even in Europe and United States, we have Lidl. It's a low-cost supermarket. They even set up their own container line. You see at some other supermarkets, they just rent their own shipping companies in order to supply the goods. And even some forwarders are setting up their own shipping. So you have some new entrants coming up as well. So let's see where is the. So let me first wrap up, and then we do a small exercise to wake you all up. You still have time. So let's wrap up. Then we do an exercise, wake you up. Yeah. And then we go towards a conclusion, and then I will pass the floor again to the moderator. So wrap up. So after the horizontal integration for the shipping companies, we had a vertical integration, and now we move more towards a diagonal integration, leading to an ecosystem for the maritime industry. These are like the first baby steps, as I call it, because they only have 4 aircraft, 6 aircraft, they just buy some digital companies. But it's all important steps. They're baby steps, but important steps. You also see that they all have the same strategy. They all buy terminals, they all buy their own assets, even the airlines, they set up, so asset heavy. Will it be sustainable from the financial point of view? That's the question mark, because they have lots of debts as well, and these debts have to be serviced. We also see new entrants. Remember the previous slides? It's not only about shipping companies. The airlines are asleep, so that's no problem. But you see some other platforms coming up, e-commerce platforms. You see the other 3PL like DHL. They're also quite awake. So what will they do? They are stronger in digital than the shipping companies. As I just said, airlines just sit back and relax. We have some airlines talking about building an ecosystem, like Turkish Cargo is doing this. But this, most of the time, is more about partnerships rather than asset heavy, buying logistics companies, buying forwarders, buying warehouses. They just move more in towards this vertical ecosystem where they're working together. But most of the other airlines even don't think about that. And as I just say, there will be lots of costs related to sustainability. In Europe, it's very important. In the United States as well. These ships, these airlines have to invest a lot in sustainability. That will cost lots of money. Also, to service the debts, they have engaged to buy all these vertical and horizontal integration maneuvers. These debts have to be serviced, and even if they earned lots of money the last couple of years, the question is, will it sustain these high prices? Definitely will. Prices are already going down on the maritime industry, and will probably continue to decline question is, will it be up to the pre-corona level, or will they still be higher than pre-corona? And this is something I like. I'm not sure if you have heard about Porter in your classes. Michael Porter, you know him? Yeah. This is so old, 1980. I don't think, is anyone born before 1980 here? No? There must be. No? No one. Okay, then I'm the only one. You?
The master student.
Ah, yeah. Okay, good. Anyway, this is very old, but still so relevant. And this is a basic for strategy. If you build a strategy for your company, it's a very simple graph, but it's a very important one. And let me quickly rehearse it. Quadrant. Porter says, if you are a good company, if you want to have a good strategy, you must make sure you focus on a number of angles. The first important angle is you must either focus on your cost leadership, that you have the lowest cost base, or you must make sure you are different. You're different compared to all the other ones. This is the first question you have to make. To go back to the phone market, which is a brand of a very cheap mobile phone. Is Oppo, is that the cheapest? Which one? Yeah? That's the cheap one. Okay, so they should be here. If you look at Apple, Apple is in the right, is different. You have people only buying Apple because they think it's the best. It's interconnected, it's expensive, but people want to buy it. So people think that it's so different that it's worth the money. So this is very important. You focus on cost or you focus on being different. That's the first angle. That's the top thing. The second angle is, do you focus on a very broad scope or you focus on a very specific segment? Do you focus, for instance, only on a very narrow part of the market, like an airline? You focus only on leisure airlines. In Europe, for instance, we have leisure airlines, or you have private jets. You do the focus. If your focus is broad, all over the industry, then you have to focus on this quadrant. Very interesting part. Let's have a look. My friends from Lion Air. Where do you put them? Different schedule. But it's very clear they focus on cost leadership. It's like in Europe, Ryanair. Remember the 10 euro? The service is not good, but they're very cheap. And you know, if you want to fly cheap in Europe, you fly Ryanair. If you want to fly cheap in Indonesia, you fly in Lion. Because Garuda is always more expensive. They are not focused on one specific market segment. They focus on a broad market segment. So you have students, but they also have businessmen flying. You even have poor professors who are flying this CityLink. Where would you position them?
Gimana?
Where would you?
Lebar gimana? Low cost atau di difference-nya? CityLink. Low cost? Who is answer to low cost? Raising your hand, you get the price. Door price. Don't worry, there is no wrong or right. Just answer the question. What do you think about the CityLink? Yang mana kira-kira CityLink di posisi mana? Low cost atau di differentiation? Akbar ya? Low cost.
Yeah, in fact, there's no good or right. That's true. They are in fact low cost, or they position themselves as low cost. But if you look at their cost base, the cost base is higher than Lion Air. The pilots, they earn the same as Garuda pilots. The maintenance is done by Garuda. The general cost structure of leasing the aircraft is also done through the Garuda. So they are more low fare rather than low cost. And if you have, you definitely have to position them here, but Lion Air you could probably position here, and CityLink you would position a bit more this way. The middle is the disaster. If you're stuck in the middle, that's the problem. Then we call it you're stuck in the middle. You do not make a difference compared to the other ones. Either you should be low cost, but really low cost, or you should really have a very differentiated cost structure. Or you should focus on a certain market segment. But if you're stuck in the middle, you don't focus, you don't have a cost leadership, you don't have a big differentiation, then you're stuck in the middle, as we say. Who knows Pelita? I'm interested to hear what you say because I'm very confused as well.
Siapa yang tahu Pelita atau ada yang pernah orang tuanya kerja di Pelita? Maybe your parents work for Pelita Air.
You know, it's owned by
Pertamina, oil company.
Pertamina?
Yeah, oil company.
They're very rich. No? I hear students want to work for them, no? Because they have very high wage, isn't it? Yeah. They set up their own airline because they were concerned that Garuda would go bankrupt and then have another shell to put. Who can tell me, where would you position them if you look in the quadrant? Who says low cost?
Oke, siapa yang bilang low cost? No one? Okay.
Who says they're really different?
Different? Ada? Oh, ada. Master students.
Good.
Doctoral student. This is Ika.
Why?
Why, Ika?
Because Pelita Air provide for the apprentice, college apprentice, that make his differentiation.
Well, I've seen them in Bali, so that's, I think, a big route, so that's not such a small route. Do you get a free meal on board? Do you get a free meal? Yeah.
With Pelita doesn't give the free meal, but they do as a job for the government to make to fight the need of Pertamina and the others to the others.
So, I think Ika thinks that the Pelita is subsidiary
Yeah.
from Pertamina.
Yeah, absolutely. And originally they had a focus because they were really working, as you say, on the Smile Islands, working for their mother company. But now recently they moved into the passenger business. But then they should really choose either to go for cost leadership, they should compete with Lion Air, or they must be different and make sure that people who choose them, they are having a willingness to pay more because the service is better, because the service is more reliable. Garuda, that's a difficult one, no? Where do we position Garuda?
Posisi Garuda di mana? Di cost, difference, atau fokus? Doctoral student, you have an answer? Or graduate, or master, or vocational?
To me, it's different. It's difficult because they used to be one of the best airlines in the world. They used to connect Europe with Australia. They used to connect Europe with even the rest of Asia. Because of their great service and a very reliable service, they're almost like Singapore Airlines. Now, of course, they struggle a bit, to say at least. Their costs are definitely too high, so definitely don't have the cost leadership. They are different, yes, the service is very good, but they don't have too many international flights. So it's difficult, they focus on domestic market. They even compete with their own CityLink, because I was flying back recently from Lombok, and I saw on the schedule that even CityLink and Garuda, they have more or less at the same time they fly. So they even compete with each other. So it's really positioned like this. However, it looks like they're losing a bit track, and they're not different enough from a Singapore Airlines to compete with Singapore Airlines. They're not different enough from CityLink to compete with CityLink with Lion Air. So if you want to compete, you must be either very much on the left or very much on the right. If you look at Singapore Airlines, they're top right. If you look at Lion Air, they're top left. And if you're stuck in the middle, like CityLink, it moves too much to the right, Garuda moves too much to the left, then you risk to be stuck in the middle. Your strategy is not very clear, which is fine. If you say, I only focus on the number of flights, then you can go to the focus. But most airlines are far too big to start focusing on a certain segment. Singapore Airlines, I've just said that top right, if you look at the differentiation. Scoot, who knows Scoot?
Scoot, ini airlinesnya anak muda, Young People Airlines. You know? Very
No
cheap
one
to
knows
Singapore.
Scoot?
Very cheap to Singapore.
Yeah.
Scoot Airlines.
It's a low cost airline. It's a low cost airline from Singapore Airlines. And Singapore Airlines, and this was an exam question at Master. Singapore Airlines recently, they merged their brand Silk Air, which was regional, full service. They had Singapore Airlines, which was here at the differentiation. They had Scoot, which was here. They had Silk Air, which is a brand, Focus, regional, Focus, and they had, I forgot the name now, it's a low-cost airline for narrow body, I forgot the name, Tiger Air, they were here. And what they have 4 brands. They had Scoot, Tiger, Singapore Airlines, Silk Air. And what they did is they just merged these 2 brands, and they merged these 2 brands because they only have 2 brands. And the exam question was why? Most of the exams at CMAT, Antwerp Management Schools, are open book, so you can use your book, and you can even use internet. You can do everything apart from calling your mother. So then let me conclude, and then we have some time for questions. As I was just saying, we have the shipping companies have a strategy, horizontal, vertical, diagonal integration. It led to the same strategy for the 5 large shipping companies in an asset-heavy, digitalized ecosystem. That's their strategy. They really want to focus as well on moving into this ecosystem. That's a diagonal integration I was talking about. Cargo airlines, they didn't have as much cash during the jackpot time of COVID. They were trying to survive and help their passenger airline during these difficult times. Some of them are thinking about partnerships with Amazon or buying into a virtual ecosystem. But they have a completely different strategy among each other, and they defer their strategy completely different compared to the shipping companies. The question is, who will win? Will the shipping companies take over and run the show? Probably not. You still have some new entrants coming up. New entrants like Alibaba, like Amazon, maybe like 3PL companies like DHL. Maybe they will win the whole game. They have less debts and they have a very strong digital system already. And the question is, where does it go? And remember this graph I was showing to you, and if you have to plot the maritime companies on them, I mean, where do you have to put them? If you have to differentiate them 5 in this Porter scheme, where will they end up? According to you, if you look at the 5 shipping companies which have the same strategy, look at MSC for instance. Where would you plot MSC here? Any idea? The second largest shipping line.
Jainal mungkin you can answer. This is a pink company if using Porter's generic strategy.
It looks like you're doubting, because I doubt as well. I don't know. I don't know where you have to put them. Are they? Do they have the lowest cost? Not really. Are they really differentiating themselves? Not among. If you plot them all 5, they will be very, very close to each other. Their strategy is almost identical. So how do you differentiate yourselves? It's not like Apple, for instance, that you say, oh, you're really different. It's not like Singapore Airlines that you know, okay, I fly Singapore Airlines, I pay more, but I know my cargo, or I will be in good hands with them. And where do you put them? I don't know. So that could be an issue. That could be a problem. Because according to Porter, you really have to choose where you are to differentiate yourselves from your peers. Because why would you take MSC? Why would you not take Mercer? The only way you can differentiate yourself is price. If your cost base is the same and your price is lower, your profit will be lower. So what will they do? They will just adapt their price. If one lowers their price, the other ones will just adapt as well. If one hires their price, maybe not everyone will make their price higher as well. Because the strategy is more or less the same. So that could be an issue here, that the strategic comparative advantage, if you use the Porter framework, is not differentiating them enough from all the others. It differentiates them from airlines, differentiates them from other more focused strategies, but it does differentiate them from themselves. So, before we go to the questions, Ms. Moderator, if you allow me some publicity, if you are interested in doing an advanced master in either maritime transport or air transport, you can come to CMAT. CMAT is the Center of Maritime and Air Transport. We are part of the University of Antwerp, and the lectures are at Antwerp Management School. Antwerp Management School is the advanced master division of the University of Antwerp. And you're very lucky because there's an agreement between ITL Trisakti and University of Antwerp. If you have a 4-year bachelor, you can go directly into the advanced master. European students have to get a master first and then enter into this program. If you have a 4-year bachelor from air or maritime or logistics, from this institute, you can go directly into the master. Of course, there's still an application and all of that. The cost is 17,750 euro. If I convert that into rupiah, it will be a lot. With all these zeros. If I'm elected president, the first thing I would do is I would delete 3 zeros from the money. It's impossible. How can you calculate? Everything looks so expensive. When you take a taxi, it's 100,000. That's the wage of a professor from a full year, 100,000 euro. So this 17,750 is the cost, but there are scholarships available. This year we have awarded exceptionally, thanks to China, because there were not many Chinese students, we we have awarded 4 scholarships, but normally in total there are 10 scholarships available. So at least 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 if they're very good students can go to university students from here. And then you still have to pay a part. It's like 5,000 euro you still have to pay, but you get 900 euro for 10 months, 930 euro for 10 months as a scholarship. So you get more money back than you pay. Good deal.
Good offering.
Have a look at Antwerp Management School.be. There you can see the programs, air transport, you can see the maritime transport. You can download the brochure, and this handsome man on the right hand side, he will do the interview and the intake. They say Ganting. Ganting. So the same for the maritime management, exactly the same procedure. So you have a master in air transport, you have a master in, it's an advanced master in maritime transport. We had a few Indonesian students who already graduated from our university. If you look down on LinkedIn, you will probably find them. And here you can see the page. You can get in touch. You can download the and then hopefully then you will be passed. We have the big graduation. This is the group of last year. Unfortunately, not all of them are on there because some students had already go back. Mainly the Chinese students went back on time. But this is the most of the groups, as you can see. No Indonesian student on here. This has been taken as well at the first week. You see, they look very happy. The students, the Indonesian students look very happy. And look at Bagus. I noticed Indonesian students always do this or this, no? On the picture. I don't know why. Why do you do this? Or this? Peace. Yeah. And look, Bagus is also doing. Only Indonesian students, I've never seen this. China, they also do this. This, what does it mean?
Metallica. Metallica.
The band.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so that's the group. You see the Thai and then the Chinese student there on the right-hand side. We have about half of them are female, half of them are male, so we have a good combination. If you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to accept your request. If you have any questions about the program, you can always contact Miguel, the man on the side. You can also contact me, but it's better if you go directly to him. He knows everything about scholarships and all of that. He can help you with. So that's the presentation. I thank you for your attention. I'm more than happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Professor Wouter. Give it applause. Okay then. Thank you, Professor. You can sit down. Okay. Okay, thank you, Professor Wouter, for the bright side of the air cargo strategy and logistic. How can air cargo and logistic can defense on the pandemic area? So you can ask or you can give your opinion. How is your opinion with the porters or the strategy of Indonesia cargo or another country cargo compared to Indonesia? What do you think? If the cargo in Indonesia more than higher revenue or lower revenue, or what do you think? You can ask Professor Wouter regarding the presentation, or maybe you can ask about the master class. Is it okay too? Or you want to ask another question, another topic? Maybe Professor Wouter can answer. Okay, which part ready have a question? Siapa bisa? Oke, siapa itu dari mana?
Yeah, hello. Okay, Good morning, everyone. My name is Sasha. I'm from Logistic Management. I have some specific question for Mr. Wouter. Okay, so the question is, I would love to ask about Porter generic strategies and value chain. So after your explanation, there is three-dimensional strategy composed of three quadrants or sometimes four, depending on how the metric is drawn. The name are differentiation, cost leadership, and focus. So, what is the strategic advantage and who is the strategic target for Porter generic strategies and value change which has been implemented in your state company or country? I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tasha.
It sounds like an easy question. Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, you should read the book from Porter. It's actually a book. It's not a paper. Of course, it has been written like 40 years ago, but certain things are still valid. And what he is saying is just a framework. So it's not the holy grail, as we can say. If you look at companies, in fact, everything starts. What do you want to achieve for your shareholders? What are your shareholders' objectives? And you have shareholders. Most of them want to have profit. Not all of them want to have profit. Some of them want to have market share. Some of them want to create employment. Some of them want to create regional development. If you look at airlines, for instance, you look at Delta Airlines, United Airlines, they want to make profit. That's clear. Create cash flow. If you look at airlines like Qatar Airways or Emirates, they have a different view. The stakeholders, the shareholders, want to create economic development. They want to fly the flag of Qatar and United Arab Emirates. Profit is important, but it's maybe not number one. So if you talk about the first part of your question, state-owned companies, they have a different view on making profit. I know that the Garuda Indonesia, they want to connect the island, connect Indonesia. They want to attract tourists to Indonesia. They want to create some regional development inside certain islands. So that's the first important point. And then once you have this, you can start making your strategy. The second part of your question is the focus strategy. Is it 3 or 4 quadrants? In fact, it's 4. It's not 3. It is very clear. Do you go for cost leadership or you go for differentiation? You go for very broad, industry-wide approach, or you focus on a segment. All the examples I've just shown really focus on industry, but then you have to be clear what is your scope. If you look at Lion Air, they have a very clear industry focus. Of course, they do Hajj and all of that because it's very profitable for them, but they really focus. If you look, the majority of the aircraft just flies inside Indonesia and maybe some countries around. If you look at Garuda Indonesia, there it already is a bit fuzzy because what's their market? Is it domestic? They're not the biggest one domestically. I mean, Lion Air is doing better. Maybe if you add CityLink and all of that. International. Okay, they fly to Kuala Lumpur, but they also fly to Japan. They even fly to Amsterdam. They even flew to London before. So that scope is also not very clear. So it's important that you define your market. And that's what they say. You go for a segment, then you have the lower part of the quadrant. You go for a broader base, but you have to define it very well. And then you can focus with cost leadership. You can have focus with differentiation. So it has really 4 quadrants. And if you look at the supermarkets, I'm sure that you can also point the 4 supermarkets in Indonesia. Look at Food Lion, for instance, which one I know is probably top right. If you look at Indo market, they bottom Indo market, they focus on small shops in let's say, densely or less densely populated areas, where it is bottom right. And then you probably have also low-cost supermarket as well. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
Natasha. All right, thank you, Professor. Okay, we still open another question. Oh yeah, dari from the lecture, Pak Jainal. Okay. Pak Jainal, it must be hard one.
Yeah.
Because we have professor here.
Yeah. We are very happy to have a good lecture like Professor Wouter. Welcome to Indonesia, Prof. Wouter. How do you feel about Jakarta with dirty river and crowded transportation? Yeah, crowded road. Yeah. Do
Well,
you
it's not
enjoy
my
that?
favorite. It's not my favorite Asian city, but luckily the people are very nice and the food is brilliant. So,
Yeah.
but I love Indonesia. I think there are better parts in Indonesia than Jakarta.
Oh, that's
Hey,
it.
give applause
Yeah.
dong. Rendang kayaknya sukanya.
Okay, well, you look handsome and young, and you've been a professor. On the contrary, vice versa, I'm not handsome and not professor yet.
Jangan gitu, Pak.
So a very big difference. Yeah, but we enjoyed this morning to be with you, and we appreciate for the collaboration. We very thank you for this kind of collaboration. That maybe sometimes I will also visit Belgium sometime. Yeah, so. Okay, as to the Porter strategy of what do we call? What strategy is the Porter name?
Well, it's about the generic strategies and the value chain.
Yeah,
That's the
there
name
are
of his book actually.
yeah, there are three strategic focus and differentiation and also cost leadership. Yeah. In the Indonesian context, I think that Indonesian has very broad spectrum of segment, yeah, market. So the strategy, which strategy is the best, I think is very contextual with the market segment, I think. Yeah, from the psychographic and lifestyle and then the culture maybe and the economic level. We have very broad segment of market. Yeah, so which strategy will do best for Indonesian context? I think very relative, very situational, according to the segment. We have many segments in Indonesia, from the very low level economy and to the very high economy. So, what is the best strategy for Indonesian cargo? I think is very uncertain, but maybe you have your own perspective about Indonesian cargo relating to the market segment like that. Maybe you have a kind of good strategy to overcome the very many segment of market, or we have to make one strategy only. Yeah, thank you. And maybe I'm not so focused about the question just because I'm not very serious about the cargo or air transportation. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Oh yeah, my name is Zainal Abidin.
Okay, nice to meet you, and thank you for your question. First of all, I think you're handsome, so don't worry about that. The question is a very relevant question, of course. There does not exist a good strategy. And what I was trying to say here is that as a company, you have to choose your positioning. And based on what your shareholders want and how you want to sell your value proposition, you have to choose a strategy. You cannot have all strategies. And if you want to have a broad spectrum of strategies, you can create a different brand with that, because you create strategy, you create value with your brand. That's why Singapore Airlines have chosen for the Singapore Airlines brand, which is very strong, and they have chosen for a Scoot brand, which is also very strong, which is a low cost. So if you talk about where Indonesia could play a role in the cargo, Indonesia is still rather low cost. If you look at the wages, if you look at the cost of living here, you can do quite a lot with $500 here. In Europe, with $500, you cannot do too much. So one of the things that Garuda, for instance, could have compared to Singapore Airlines is that the cost base is significantly lower. In Europe, we have the same thing in Eastern Europe. You look at Hungary, you look at Poland, you look at Bulgaria, there the wage is about half or 1/3 of the wage in West Europe. So what do you see? Many airlines, like Wizz Air, it's like the Ryanair, but from the Eastern Europe side, is much cheaper. They have a lower cost base. So they are using this lower cost base to put their value proposition of their brand and to attract additional business. But I'm sure that Indonesia is strong enough to even have a very strong brand like Garuda in Indonesia was in the past. Although I think it's too late. I think it will not work anymore. It cannot become a Singapore Airlines anymore. But maybe another airline will come up and take that place. So once again, to summarize, the strategy does not exist. It's up to the management and based on the shareholders' objectives to position your brand. And if you want to have the whole spectrum, you just make different brands. But make sure you don't lose your economies of scale, because these are also important. If you're too small, your cost base goes up again. That's why a low-cost carrier with only 20 aircraft, that wouldn't work, because you need at least 100 aircraft to have enough economies of scale to have a low average cost. Does that answer your question?
Oke, terima kasih Rajani. Thank you, Professor Wouter. Okay, we come out with the next question. Okay, thank you. Coba tolong panitia. Ada 2 orang.
Thank you, Miss. Okay, good morning, Mr. Wouter, and good morning, everyone. My name is Gideon. I'm come from logistic management. Right now, for the first, I want to say thank you. You give chance to me to ask. I have the question, actually 2 questions. For the first question, if we are a new entrance company in shipping, air, and others, how we can applying or interested the another company to do collaboration with our company, because we are a new entrance, we need some experience. And then that's the first question. And then number 2, according to the experience you've had so far, then COVID attacked us, how to maintain every company at that time, especially companies from foreign company. And after that, how to sustain and increase their value after COVID. There's my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Once again, it sounds like 2 exam questions again. Yeah, the first question is, for me, not entirely clear. You say a startup shipping company. You start up your own shipping company. Then you will definitely go bankrupt. You'll go bankrupt. You won't survive. That's for sure. Because you will never achieve economies of scale, economies of scope, economies of density to enter. If you set up your own airline, you will go bankrupt. You don't have scale, scope, density. Forget it. The only way you can maybe survive is by choosing the strategy, by not going for cost leadership because you lose, not going for differentiation, you lose. You can focus. You can focus on one specific segment. You can transport, for instance, hydrogen, or you can focus on a very, very specific product. Then maybe be able to to survive. So, because the market is settled, you cannot just start up your own shipping company or airline anymore. Or if you are the Middle Eastern government, and like Saudi Arabia does, they just buy 50 aircraft and they just put millions and billions of dollars, and then you're happy to take 5 to 10 years loss, then it's okay. Your second question is about how to survive after COVID, right? I think many companies struggled during COVID, but also many companies have learned some new way of working as well. And what we see in Europe now, the question is not anymore a matter of cash or profit. Of course you need to have cash or you go bankrupt. Of course you need to make cash flow or profit in the medium term, otherwise you go bankrupt. But the thing is how to attract good people. And we have the war for talent in Europe. All the students, all my students, all had work within 2 months at very good companies in Europe. By the way, if you come to Europe, you do your master, you can stay in Europe for 2 years. Looking for a job, and once you have a job, you can stay. As long as you have a job. If you stay 5 years in Belgium, you can apply for a permanent residence. And if you stay 10 years in Belgium, you can get your Belgian citizenship. So you don't have to marry a Belgian anymore for that. So if you're married already, no? So you can't. So, but you can, but it's complicated. So it's a war for talent. To go back to your question, and how you can survive is keep good people, attract good people, keep good people by attracting the best people in the region you can find, and make sure they don't go to the competition. And you can do that by offering a good working atmosphere, by having relaxed working conditions. Many people in Europe work from home now, 2-3 days a week. They go to the office 2-3 days a week. That works very well. We give them enough holiday. I know in Indonesia already have many holidays. These regions, that's good. In Europe we also have holidays. But you must make sure that people want to work for your company, you have to pay them well, treat them well, and if you have good people, then you'll be able to survive. On the other side, sustainability is also very important. I see here in Indonesia there's a little less focus on sustainability. Unfortunately,
Good question. Oh, the next question is the girls.
Then I want to ask, how do you think
Students need to prepare to embrace the future, maybe given that there will be more challenge in the future? Thank you.
yeah, that's a good question. It's a question of $1 million. I think it's more difficult for your generation than it was for my generation. Why? You have access to all information, which is very fast. You live in a world which is more complicated than in the 90s. You can see the world is more complicated, it's more complex, and it's more stressful. You have people who have burnouts, people work hard, and especially you notice if I get an email and I don't answer in one day, people are getting worried. So it's much faster. What I always say to my students, I mean, if you have the intellectual capacity, and I think you all have it, because otherwise you would not be here, then invest in your education. If you invest in your education, then it's the best investment you can make for yourself and for your family and for your country. So I would strongly advise you, don't stop after this bachelor. And you don't have to come to Antwerp, don't worry. You can maybe do a master somewhere else. But I see, focus on your education. If you finish your bachelor here, please don't stop after your bachelor. In Europe, almost no one stops after their bachelor. Everyone does a master on top of that. You will probably have to work till you're 67. You will die when you're 100. So what's that additional year? If you want to buy a motorcycle, just buy it later. So invest in your education, do a master. Some of you might be interested in doing PhD. We have many PhDs at our university. They don't stay. They don't become all nutty professors like me. Some of them go to consulting companies. Some of them go to government companies. Some of them work in a just normal, ordinary industry. So go for a master, go for a PhD, go abroad. Don't stay only in Indonesia. Indonesia is a great country, but try to work abroad. Try to do maybe 6 months a students exchange. Try to go and work somewhere else. Go to Japan, to Korea. I know the girls want to go to Korea, isn't it? No? Isn't it? All the girls want to go to Korea. Isn't it?
Almost.
To me, they all look the same. No? I don't know why they like this Korean. But anyway, go to Europe. Go to the United States. Just get some other cultures. Indonesia is a great blend of different cultures, but it's still Indonesia. If you go to Europe, you go to China, go to Japan, go to Korea, go to the US, it's so different. You will learn things, you will meet other people, your world will open up. So that would be my guidance for you. 1, education, and 2, internationalization.
Go for the bright side. Okay, next question. Okay, wow, we have a lot of questions from the girls.
They're not shy. What is shy again? Mati mati? No. What?
Malu malu.
Malu malu. Okay, I know hati hati. That's not care. Huh? Malu malu.
We have 3 girls. Okay, which one?
It's like they go to the toilet. They all go together to the toilet as well. So 3 questions at the same time.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Astini Riani. I'm from the Logistic Management. In this occasion, I would just like to ask a simple question to Professor Wouter regarding the diagonal integration. So, can you explain a little more about why those cargo companies do the diagonal integration, other than because of excess cash? And then what are the benefits for the companies for doing the diagonal integration, and is there any disadvantages? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. It's a very good question. The diagonal integration is they want to create an ecosystem. They see they have achieved economies of scale with the horizontal integration. They have created economies of scope with the vertical integration. They also have created some density with the horizontal integration, and then they wanted to go one step further. They want to offer end-to-end logistics. In the first strategy, they always went port to port. So someone was bringing the containers to the port, someone was bringing the pallets to the airport, and then you ship to the port or to the airport. What they want to do now, They want to create an ecosystem. They want to own the customer. They want to offer from the beginning up to the end. From the factory, they want to go to the warehouse, they want to do the customs clearance, they want to put it on the port or the airport, and they want to do the same thing at the other side. So, because they see there's not too much money to be gained by only transporting port to port or airport to airport. And they see other people are earning lots of money. They see the forwarders and the logistics company are earning money. And they say, I also want to do that. I want to do the ecosystem. So that's why they want to do it. Or the disadvantages, of course, there are many disadvantages. Because if you buy all these companies, you must manage them. And if you have to manage this type of cocktail of all different companies, it's difficult. I know that you have tried a cocktail, no? Even mocktail, it's haram as well, no? Cocktail. Sometimes a mocktail is non-alcoholic. If you mix certain things, it fits. Sometimes you put too many drinks together and it doesn't taste nice anymore. So the challenge here is how to keep on making it work and that you decrease your cost, that you improve the end-to-end logistics and you do not increase your cost. The danger is, one, you increase your cost. Two, there's also a danger is that your customers get upset. If you're buying a logistics company, it's very possible that your competitors are not going to use that logistics company. They say, I'm not going to do it with Maersk because they're my competitor. That you would lose customers. That's why there's some vertical integration in the airline industry. You all know Emirates, no? The shiny gold airline. They have their own ground handling company. It's called Denata. Have you heard about Denata? It's a ground handling company. It's not called Emirates Ground Handling. Why? Because Denata is doing the check-in for Etihad in Schiphol. If Etihad is a big competitor from the United Arab Emirates, if you have to check in at Emirates Ground Handling for Etihad, it would work. That's why they changed the name to Denata. Not many people know it is Emirates. But still, there's a danger that the customers might not be happy. So one, increased cost. Two, danger of losing customers. And then three, that it's too expensive in a way, you have too many debts, interest rates are rising for the moment, you will not be able to pay interest back to the banks or pay the debt. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Okay, give him applause for the answer. Oke, the next question ya, tadi ada dua lagi ya. Yang sebelah sini. Iya, dia pojok.
Malu-malu.
Iya, malu-malu. Yang malu-malu nggak dapat door prize.
You know what I like as well about this group, because we definitely have to make another selfie, because the other one you were a bit too quiet. When I was giving my first guest lecture here 4 or 5 years ago, the girls were sitting on one side and the boys on another side. I see you're all mixed. That's good. So I'm happy for that. Well done.
They like not see, so they want to mix.
Good, perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, Mr. Wouter. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. First of all, nice to meet you. So my question is, what is the most challenging part of supervising transportation of I'm Nadia. I'm tech major of air transportation management vocational. So my question is, what is the most challenging part of supervising transportation operation, especially air transport management? Thank you.
We not clear your question. Can you repeat it again?
Okay. My question is, what is the most challenging part of supervising?
Challenging part, you mean?
Supervising transport operation. Supervising.
Okay, I get your question. Thank you for that.
Is the clarity?
It's very clear, yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
In fact, the air transport is very challenging. I'm I'm giving here a course. I discussed with Dr. Juliater. Normally, I think somewhere the mid of February, somewhere in February. So you might be in my class. And there we have an assignment to make. We will set up our own airline. We make the business plan and we make the game. We're setting up our own airline. And there you will see what is challenging. I mean, operations are always very challenging because aircraft are always late, many things happening at the same time. You have passengers connecting, you have luggage not arriving on time, not arriving, you have cargo coming in, you have passengers who have missing documents, you name it. Everything can go wrong in this business. But the biggest challenge of running an airline is to run it profitably. Because an airline, if you have a flight, if you have one passenger on board, or you have 200 passengers on board, the cost is more or less the same. But the revenue will be completely different. Even if your plane is full, then it's still a challenge. Because how do you make sure that a person has a willingness to pay of 200 euro or dollar, and the fare is only $80? So how do you make sure that you can maximize your revenue in a way? So I think the finance part and the sales part are even more complicated because the margins are very low. If you look at the air transport industry, average margin is 2 to 3% on operating profit on revenue. Many airlines even make a loss. Only few airlines make a profit. So the challenge is, of course, one, to keep your cost under control, but two, even more, make sure that your revenue is under control, that your load factor is high, I mean you have seats filled with passengers, and two, the price you ask is high to make sure that you can maximize your revenue. I can remember I flew to Japan a couple of years ago with Etihad, and my friend was at the time a colleague of mine. He still is a friend, by the way, but he's a bit stingy. He doesn't like to spend too much money, and he's quite dominant in choosing the flight. So we went on a conference. I said, okay, you choose the flight. So he booked Etihad. We paid $350 to go from Brussels to I think it was Tokyo. 350. That's extremely cheap. But the flight was terrible. We arrived middle of the night in Abu Dhabi. We have to stay the whole day in Abu Dhabi. We have to fly at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the same thing on the way back. But at least Etihad, they sold their ticket. Next to us there was someone who was paid $280 to go to Bangkok. So putting bums on the seats and having a maximum price next to it, that's the challenge, next to keeping your cost low. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Thank you for the answer, Professor Wouter. Yeah, give him applause. We have still two questions. Yeah, the last question from the girl from backside. Tolong diberikan mic.
Okay, first of all, hi everyone. Hi, Mr. Wouter. My name is Selma from Logistics and Material Management Associate Degree. Honestly, I'm afraid to ask this question, so I hope my question makes sense. As a student of logistics, I think this is a big problem for us to knowing that in Indonesia there is a shortage of containers. According to Mr. Wouter, what steps need to be taken to solve this problem? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very practical question. You know, with the container business, that there are more containers going from east to west than there's from west to east. In air transport, the equilibrium is better because we import things from the east, but we send luxury goods back, which are also flying in air. So in air transport, there's less of an issue. Also in air transport, we have containers, but that's less of an issue. In maritime, it's more the cheaper goods, and we have many more containers going from east to west and from west to east, if you look to Europe, and the opposite from the United States. We had a number of years ago, we sent or pay paper and plastic and all of that back to Asia for sorting and recycling, but that is much more complicated now. So what you can do about the shortage of containers, to be honest, I don't know. I really don't know. I think the problem will solve itself because there are more than enough containers. The problem is they are stuck at ports. They're stuck in Shanghai, in Shenzhen, in Rotterdam, in Antwerp, in Long Beach, all these ports, because it takes so long for the ships to arrive to get the container loaded. So the stock of containers is at the ports. So the only solution is to solve the problems at the ports rather than making new containers or bringing them back empty from somewhere else. So solve the problems here. I'm not sure how bad the situation is in Indonesia. I know in Antwerp and Rotterdam, two big ports, things are getting better. In Long Beach, I was there in May. In Long Beach, at that time, it was a huge mess. The containers were standing up to the road. I don't know if they're empty or not, but there were so many containers. In front of the Long Beach port, you had like 50 ships waiting to be loaded and offloaded. So if that problem is solved, then I think there will be containers enough.
Okay. Next question. Ya, ada satu last question. Oke, tolong ini Mas yang di depan.
For the young man there.
Ya.
I also think the level of English has improved a lot compared to the last 5 years, so it's good.
Hello everyone, my name is Welly from Sea Transportation Management. I want to ask a simple question to Master Wouter. My question is, what is the importance of proper handling cargo? Thanks, my question for me, thank you.
Proper handling.
Importance
for air cargo.
It's air cargo, right?
Yes.
Air cargo. Yeah, that's a good question. Air cargo, you know, it's always a bit rushed. Passengers always get priority on board of a passenger plane. Very often the cargo is loaded, as you know, at the back of the plane. The front of the plane, normally the luggage is there. I talk about wide body. If you hide in an aircraft, if you want to go free to Europe, you can hide in an aircraft. Don't hide under the wheels because you might freeze to death. Don't hide in the back because it's not heated. Hide in the front because there's a small door. You can go to the cockpit and it is heated. If you have dogs and cats, you always put them in the front. So luggage is in the front and cargo is at the back. Also, not like in the movie, you cannot, in the movie, have you seen movies of aircraft hijacked? You can go down in the cockpit, you walk all the way, and then you go up in the end. That's not true, that's impossible, because you have fuel tanks in between. But that's not your question, I do know. It's the cargo. The problem is with cargo is timing. And very many times air cargo is time sensitive, but also temperature sensitive. You have mobile phones, you have pharmaceutical, you have chemical products which are shipped by air. So they're quite temperature sensitive. So it's important that your flow is smooth, that your cargo doesn't stand too long on the tarmac, especially in countries like the Middle East, where sometimes it is 50 degrees. And then your pharmaceuticals are outside for 15 minutes and your temperature goes up and the pharmaceuticals you can control them. So a very smooth handling, a very well prepared flow is important, and it's also important that the airline is organized that way that cargo is important. That they do not say, oh, passengers are important for us and the cargo, we just put it in the back and we see what is happening. So handle it well, prioritize it well, and make sure that what you offer your customer you can do as well. So your question.
Thank you. Give him applause for the answer. Okay, then we come out with the conclusion. The last session is the conclusion. So I have my own conclusion from the presentation of Mr. Wouter, Professor Wouter, and all the audience, that economic scale, the advances that can sometimes occur as a result of increases the size of business. So if you want to big advantage of the business, we have to come out with the economic scale. And then about the airlines, when the COVID-19 coming, the airlines business usually focus on the passenger, but now they are focused on the cargo business, because as we can see, as the cargo, the airline earn a lot of money from the cargo, but lost in the passenger revenue. And the last is about the transport ecosystem. Because we know that transport ecosystem offering end-to-end solution. It means that many transport maritime buying their own investment, like their own aircraft, their own container, even their own store, even like supermarket, mini supermarket. They have on their trucks, their own trucks, their own ship, and the aircraft. So that's all my conclusion. We hope that our general lecture today can bright our mind for the airline business and the regulation. The important thing, also the regulation to build, to expand our business in cargo strategy. That's all from us today for general lecture. Thank you for the bright set from the Professor Wouter.
Just make one selfie if you don't mind.
Okay, of course. Okay, can we stand up?
I just
So
want you to make.
can...
I will make a selfie. You have another one. Okay, but I first want to make a selfie because they have higher impact, and I want you to be very happy and wave. Okay? Let's wave, huh? Wave. Make sure. Yes, come on, wave. Make sure. Yeah. And another one. Thank you. That's for LinkedIn.
Thank you very much, Professor Wouter, for the wonderful discussion, for the wonderful presentation. It is very much, me personally, as a logistic management student, I felt like we had it broadened our knowledge, especially about the air transport and then the cargo, and also we mentioned a lot about the economies of scale and etc. And also next, I would like to call Professor Wouter to please come forward to the stage and to be given a token of appreciation from ITL Trisakti. Maybe Seri as the head of partnership, sir, and also Pak Yosi as the head of publication and communication. Okay, Pak Yosi. is a token of gratitude for the moderator, Miss Mustika Sari. Okay, so maybe next to all participants, please stand up because we are going to have a photo session together. Ya, yang lain boleh berdiri. Mungkin bisa stand up. Kumpul aja. Ya.
Okay, get around everyone. Let's take a picture together. Okay, everyone, let's take a picture together. Yeah. Okay, there are 3 cameras, so focusing on this camera, okay? Okay, focusing on this camera, okay? Smile. Okay, let's do Indonesia pose, right? This or this, okay? Okay, a thumbs up. Okay, picture first. Okay, nice. Thank you all.
Okay, to all participants, we have finally come to the end of our session. It has been a really great and wonderful afternoon with all of you today. And on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to thank you for all the participants for your attention, and thank you for participating in today's general lecture, Cargo Business Regulation and Strategy. Oke, to all participants, untuk teman-teman yang mau ambil foto bareng Prof, mungkin bisa langsung maju. Ya kayaknya bareng-bareng aja deh. Bareng-bareng sekalian gitu.
I don't know how long has I've been reading books of old, the legends and myths, Achilles and his gold, Hercules and his gifts, Spider-Man's control, and Batman with his fists. And clearly I don't see myself upon that list. She said, where you wanna go? How much you wanna risk? I'm not looking for somebody with some superhuman gifts, some superhero, some fairy tale bliss, just something I can turn to, somebody I can kiss. I want something just like this. She said, where you wanna go? How much you wanna risk? I'm not looking for somebody with some superhuman gifts, some superhero, some fairy tale bliss, just something I can turn to, somebody I can kiss. I want something just like this.
You say you love me, I say you're crazy. We're nothing more than friends. You're not my lover, more like a brother. I've known you since we were like 10. Don't mess it up, talking that shit. Only gonna push me away, that's it. When you say you love me, that make me crazy. Here we go again. Down girl, look at me with that look in your eye. You really ain't going away without a fight. You can't be reasoned with, I'm done being polite. I've told you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 times. Haven't I made it obvious? Haven't I made it clear? Want me to spell it out for you? F-R-I-N-D-S. Haven't I made it obvious? Haven't I made it clear? Want me to spell it out for you? F-R-I-N-D-S. F-R-I-E-N-D-S. That's how you fucking spell friends. F-R-I-E-N-D-S. Get that shit inside of your head. No. F-R-I-E-N-D-S. We're just friends. Don't go look at me with that look in your eye. You really ain't going nowhere without a fight. You can't be reasoned with, I'm done being polite. I've told you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 times. Haven't I made it obvious? Haven't I made it clear? Want me to spell it out for you? F-R-I-N-D-S.
got a girl from the south side. She got braids in her hair. First time I seen her walk by, man, about fell up on my chair. Had to get her number, took me like 6 weeks. Now me and her go way back, like Cadillac seats. Body like a back road, driving with my
Now, I'm not going to tell you to start a dropshipping business or an Amazon FBA or an agency. Far from it. I'm actually going to teach you how to discover a business model that you will love and the passion to grow it into a highly profitable business. Hey, my name is Winston, and for the past couple of decades, I've founded and grown several companies to over 7 and 8 figures, and I've won several entrepreneurship awards as well. But honestly, that's not my proudest achievement, because my proudest achievement was when my student achieved the same. One of my students, CK, when he first came to me, he had no business idea at all. So I gave him a business idea, I told him how exactly he can grow it, and now he's generated well over 8 figures in revenue. And another student of mine had the same issue where he had no business idea at all. All he knew was that he wanted to start something. So I gave him an idea, guided him to grow the business, and now he's able to afford his dream car. And I have many more real life examples like that. But I want you to be my next success story. Because if you are someone who is serious on starting a business and want to make your next couple of years your most successful year yet, I'm holding a 3-day workshop showing you the ins and outs of entrepreneurship. We'll be going through how to discover a business idea that you will love and be passionate about, how to validate that business idea and ensure that people will love it before you spend a single cent on it, and how to grow the business from 0 to 5 figures using a templated approach. And lastly, how to sell the business off for generational wealth. Now, because I only want the most serious people to attend this workshop, it's not going to be free. Instead,
I know every curve like the back of my hand. 2 and 15 and 30. I ain't in no worry. I'm gonna take it slow, just as fast as I can. The way she fit in them blue jeans, she don't need no belt, but I can turn them inside out. I don't need no help. Got hips like honey, so big and so sweet. Ain't no curves like hers, downtown streets. Body like a back road, driving with my eyes closed. I know every curve like the back of my hand. 2 and 15 and 30. I ain't in no worry. I'm gonna take it slow, just as fast as I can. Boondocks, with the breeze and the birds, tangled up in the tall grass, with my lips on hers. On the highway to heaven, headed south of a smile. Get there when we get there, every inch is a mile. Body like a back road, driving with my eyes closed. I know every curve like the back of my hand. 2 and 15 and 30. I ain't in no worry. I'm gonna take it slow, just as fast as I can. I ain't worried about nothing, I ain't worried about nada. You're sitting pretty impatient, girl, I know you gotta put them in hours, baby, make it harder. You're sending pic after picture, girl, give me fire. You know I'm always on the night shift, and you can stand these nights alone. Yeah, you don't need no explanation, just baby, I'm the boss at home. I ain't gotta go to work, 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 but I gotta put in work, 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 work. I ain't gotta go to work, 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 work. Let your body do the work, 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 work. We can work from home, oh, oh. We can work from home, oh, oh. Let's put it in motion, girl, give me a promotion. Let's make it feel like a vacation, turn a bed into an ocean. We don't need nobody, I just need your body. Nothing but sheets in between us, ain't no getting up early. You know I'm always on the night shift, and you can stand these nights alone. Yeah, you don't need no explanation, 'cause baby, I'm the boss at home. I ain't gotta go to work, 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 but I gotta put in work, 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 work. I ain't gotta go to work, 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 work. Let your body do the work, 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 work. We can work from home. We can work from home. We can work from home. Yeah. We can work from home.
This was all you, none of it me. You put your hands on my body and told me. You told me you were ready for the big one, for the big jump. I'll be your last love, everlasting, you and me. Yeah. That was what you told me. I'm giving you up, I've forgiven it all. You set me free. Yeah, send my love to your new lover. Treat her better. We gotta let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. Send my love to your new lover. Treat her better. We gotta let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. I was too strong, you were trembling. You couldn't handle the hot heat rising. Baby, I'm rising. I was running, you were walking. You couldn't keep up, you were falling down. There's only one way down. I'm giving you up, I've forgiven it all. You set me free. Oh, send my love to your new lover. Treat her better. We gotta let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. Send my love to your new lover. Treat her better. We gotta let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. If you're ready, if you're ready, if you're ready, oh, we ain't kids no more. If you're ready, if you're ready, I'm giving you up, I've forgiven it all. You set me free. to your new lover, to read her better. We gotta let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. Send my love to your new lover, to read her better. We gotta let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. Send my love to your new lover, to read her better. We gotta let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. Send my love to your new lover, to read her better. Let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. I love it when you call me a señorita. I wish I could pretend I didn't need ya, but every touch is your love. It's true, la la la. Ooh, I should be running. Ooh, you keep me coming for you.
And in Miami, the air was hot from summer and sweet dripping off me. Before I even knew her name, la la la. It felt like a la la la, yeah, no. Sapphire moonlight, we danced for hours in the sun, tequila sunrise. Her body fit right in my hands, la la la. It felt like a la la la, yeah. I love it when you call me señorita. I wish I could pretend I didn't need ya, but every touch is your love. It's true, la la la. Ooh, I should be running. Ooh, you know I love it when you call me señorita. I wish it wasn't so damn hard to leave ya, but every touch is true, la la la. It's true, la la la. Ooh, I should be running. Ooh, you keep me coming for you. Like in the hotel, there are just some things that never change. You say we just friends, but friends don't know the way you taste, la la la. Cause I know it's been a long time coming, don't you let me fall. The way you listen, dress me hooked on your tongue. Ooh, love you can't sit still, don't stop. I love it when you call me señorita. I wish I could pretend I didn't need ya, but every touch is true, la la la. It's true, la la la. Ooh, I should be running. Ooh, you know I love it when you call me señorita. I wish it wasn't so damn hard to leave ya, but every touch is true, la la la. It's true, la la la. Ooh, I should be running. Ooh, you keep me coming for ya. All along I've been coming for ya, oh yeah. And I hope it means something to you. Call my name, I'll be coming for you. Coming for you. Coming for you. Coming for you. For ya. Oh, she love it when I come,
oh yeah. Ooh, I should be running. Ooh, you keep me coming for ya.
There's a wolf that preys on a world that strays so far from the garden. And just like your own, every heart you know seems cold and hardened. You may not have the stage, but you still have a voice. You may not have the strength, but if you have a choice, I dare you to love. Oh, I dare you to love. Even if you hurt, you can always hit worse. Even if you think it's not enough, oh, I dare you to love. Yeah.
if you think it's not enough, I dare you to love. Ah.
We've helped millions of creators improve their SEO to grow their YouTube channels. TubeBuddy is a platform that helps you save time, get more views, and do more on YouTube. Wow, that is exactly what I need. Oh, want to put your thumbnail ideas to the test? A/B testing is the way to find out which one works best. And don't get us started on our bulk editing features that will save you even more time.
Aku sangat benci berbahasa Inggris. Karena setiap pengucapan bahasa Inggrisku salah, aku selalu diejek oleh teman-temanku. Selain itu juga, saat membaca jurnal berbahasa Inggris, aku harus copy paste ke Google Translate. Dan terkadang aku juga nggak paham apa maksud dari penulis jurnal tersebut. Setelah berlatih dengan ink breaking, aku jadi lebih suka berbicara dengan bahasa Inggris. Aku merasa membaca dokumen atau jurnal bahasa Inggris jadi lebih mudah, karena aku juga sudah hafal 3.000 kata atau verbs bahasa Inggris. Pastinya, nonton film Amerika nggak harus pakai subtitle bahasa Indonesia lagi dong. Aku suka banget 3 metode dari ink breaking, yaitu deep listening,
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.